the Midge. I gotta go see if there's a raccoon or something. She gets something running around on the bonus room. Out the garage. It's gonna be
Probably a neighbor. Sorry, JB.
Yeah. Get the gun and shoot it.
It's a drone.
They're not in the
I'd like to call the Smithfield Town Council meeting of Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 to order. It's the regular meeting convened at 7 p.m. There was no votes taken in executive session. The prayer. We open this meeting by asking for your peace, and you will find our peace. You are our God in order to be not confused. We ask that you would help us in approach this meeting with a spirit of peace and harmony. Amen. Salute to the flag. Emergency evacuation and health notification.
In the event that the council chambers has to be evacuated, the rear door to the council chambers is an exit. Immediately to your right is a stairwell leading out to the front of the building. Immediate to my right, you'll see an exit sign, which brings you to another stairwell, brings you out to the side of the building. Do not try to use the elevator in the case of an emergency. Also, the ladies' room and men's room, as you leave the rear exit of the chamber, men's room is on the right and ladies' room is further up on the left.
Thank you, Chief. We have a couple of presentations. Special recognition, Miss Dorothy Swain. Would you approach, please? Councilman Winfield will read the citation.
Thank you. But before we do that, Dorothy was also an original member of our parade committee. So while it says 36 years here, we probably should put one more on there.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So Dorothy, as we do in these things, certificate of retirement, the Smithfield Town Council and the town of Smithfield wish to extend a heartfelt recognition and appreciation to yourself upon your retirement from the Greenville Public Library with 36 years of outstanding service to the town of Smithfield community. Thank you.
I just want to say it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the people of this town. It was a great run, but now it's time for new change. So
Dorothy, is it true and accurate that you had 36 years at the library?
yes, I did. I started in 1988.
So you started when you were 20,
No, I started when I was 15.
15. Good answer.
Thank you so much.
Chief, you want to get a picture of all of us too? Yeah. Can I have the girls field hockey coach come up? You have the right to remain silent. No.
I'm from Burrville, so there we go.
Coach, the Smithfield Town Council wants to recognize the whole team. So we're going to give you the citations to hand out, because there's a lot of them. But I want to read one of the citations. The Smithfield Town Council and the Town of Smithfield, Rhode Island, extends its heartfelt congratulations on being a member of the 2024 Smithfield High School Girls Field Hockey Team and winning the Rhode Island State Interscholastic League Division III State Championship, and this is on December 17th, 2024. I saw a couple of the games this year on the new field. The girls did a great job. And it's the first, I believe, field hockey championship for Smithfield High School. Am I correct in saying that?
Since 2013.
2013. Well, I want to congratulate you and all the ladies for making Smithfield proud and putting another trophy in that trophy case. When we put the new addition on the high school, we're going to have to build a new trophy case. But thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your efforts in helping these girls become young women.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you guys with the girls?
Yeah, we're going to have all the girls come up and we'll take a picture. Mike, Rachel?
If you guys can spread out here with the council members.
She's not here. Someone make a row. Guys, that's not gonna work.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think the town manager has a box for you.
There's a box right over there. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Back with them.
Can't go like this anymore. I know, but they're on a deadline. That's the problem. But they didn't. Okay, item number 6, move the minutes of December 3rd, 2024, open session meeting to be approved and recorded. I have a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Number 7, consider discussion act upon the following possible appointments and reappointments. Capital Committee appointment for the life term, and we have to correct that. It's not a life term. It's when people,
that's right.
the people who are termed off the council have to relinquish that spot. So it's the elected, so it's not a life term.
So the term of the council member.
Yeah, right,
Right, it's the elected term, which we can change.
yeah.
So the motion would be, I'd move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Angelica Bovis to the Capital Committee as the Town Council's one of 2 representatives on that committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Traffic Safety Commission appointed for the term of the town council member.
I move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Thomas Winfield to the Traffic Safety Committee as the town council's representative on that committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Fire Department Building Committee appointed for the term of the council.
I move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Jacob Neves to replace Christopher McWhite on the Fire Department Building Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Zoning Board appointment for the term expiring May of 2027. That's the one we're moving up Smith.
Replacing Michael Lawton. That's what I had next.
Yeah, skip one.
Okay, okay, so we skip that one?
You have two appointments on the phone.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think you skipped one, yeah.
Turn your papers.
Okay, the Smithfield Town Council hereby appoints in replace of Mike Lawton for the Fire Department Building Committee. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thomas Winfield. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Zoning Board appointment, term expiring May 2027.
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Frank Smith to the Zoning Board with a term expiring in May of 2027.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. The Zoning Board appointment to the term expiring May of 2025.
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Brian Dahlman as first alternate on the Zoning Board for a term expiring in May of 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, nays, ayes have it. Public hearings. A, the public hearing is withdrawn. We're going to go to B, conduct a public hearing to consider and discussing, act upon approving the renewal of intoxication beverage license and listed as applied is subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances and certificate of good standing for the Rhode Island Division of Taxation. It's going to be, is it Urquhart LLC? And TAC LLC, which is Cook and Dagger. Do I have a motion? I have a second.
Second.
Anything, Lynn, everything's in order?
It is.
Those two? Okay.
Add those.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Class B Particular Limited Beverage License, Popo LLC, Athens Pizza, 1 Austin Avenue. Do I have a motion?
That was part of the,
Original.
Yep,
correct, so you don't have to,
okay. My mistake because it went over. Schedule a public hearing on January 21st, 2025, to consider and discuss the act upon amendment of the Code of Ordinances to add Chapter 283 entitled The Seal of the Town, sponsored by council members Mike Ionati and Rachel Toppy. Do
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Licenses, which is number 9, is all withdrawn.
A, B, and C.
A, B, and C are withdrawn. D, consider the act upon approving renewal of 5 particular only licenses that listed apply and subject to compliance with all state regulations. Best Life Nutrition, Fitness 401, IBN Lake Bake Shop, Melissa Carbone, Breeze Deli, Speedway LLC. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Everything in order, Lynn?
they are.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. New business. Old business is none, new business. Consider discussing act upon authorizing an amendment to a proposal American Rescue Plan Act funding program.
Caitlin Shania, Finance Director. So we are asking for the reappropriation of $86,150.01 from the Willow Field Complex Improvement, and we are going to break that into two different categories, garage doors for the fire state, two of the fire stations, and additional road and paving improvements to equal the 86,150. So we're just reallocating the money that was already approved to two different projects that we are going to be able to get done before 12/31.
Thank you. Chief?
Yeah, so just to add, the finance director, DPW director, and I met, and we went over all of the ARPA funds, because some of the projects actually came in a little cheap, a little less expensive, and/or some things we couldn't get done. So as you know, everything has to be obligated by 12/31, and with these changes, we can get the purchase orders out this week, and all of our ARPA funds will be obligated, so we will have, we'll have expenditures to take up all the funds.
Any questions from the council?
So we're moving funds from Willow Field Complex. Is that because it's costing less than was originally anticipated?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
So there were some things that came under budget, and this was all part of the Parks and Recs Department. They had some other items in there that came under budget, so we had the $86,000 left, so we didn't want to lose it.
Right.
And we knew we'd be able to get these two projects done and obligated by 12/31.
Any other questions from the council? Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve the proposed amendment to the ARPA funding program and the reallocation of $86,150.01.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Consider, discuss, act upon approving the terms of a contract to Colliers Project Leaders and owners of project management for the capital projects at the Smithfield Public Schools on behalf of the school department.
Good evening, members of the Town Council. I'm Dawn Bart, Superintendent of Schools. Joining me tonight is Director of Finance, Melissa Devine, our School Committee Chairman, Rich Inatelli, and our CTE Director and Dean of Students, Josh Lombardi. I'm here to ask for approval for Stage 1, Stage 2, and a fast-track plan to be awarded to Colliers to be able to start our renovation project at Smithfield High School.
Dawn, can you tell us what projects you're going to be working on?
Absolutely. So it will be, just to start off, we'll be looking at a new 10-year plan for the schools that is required for RIDE. So that will come under Stage 1 and Stage 2. They will look at all 5 of our schools, look at the 20-year plan and any other documentation that we have, looking at the scope of the work, but most specifically, we'll be looking at the high school and the fast-track projects, which will include, in addition to this work and getting the schematics and in Stage 2, the architect, renovations at the high school. So our first priority project is to move the intensive special education room to be more centrally located in the school. That will require some renovations within the library where there are classrooms. Moving up on the priority list would be the second project, which would be renovations to the culinary arts room. We've recently, in fact, at the end of last week, received approval from the Rhode Island Department of Education for approval to begin the CTE track for culinary arts this fall. So the last part of that approval process is to show that we have updated the facility.
Dr. Bartz, when you say fast-track projects, is that the same as emergency projects? You're using them interchangeably?
Yes, I was actually using the RIDE language, but yes, it would be, and that's what we'd be applying for, an emergency project so that we can actually begin one project during this fiscal year, and then have a second emergency project beginning in July 1, the second fiscal year, again, depending on what the cost is, because it's a cap of $500,000, as you know.
So those two projects, the culinary and the ISC rooms, did you say that's the extent of the fast track projects? Or are you including anything else?
Well, certainly renovating the bathrooms is high on the priority list for our schools as well. We are a little bit cautious. We're using the priority one list that the council had approved for looking at these projects, and the school committee has determined these would be the top two right now. If there is additional, if it comes under the budget, yes, we would move into the bathrooms. They both need to be renovated in the high school and at GMS.
Was the list about $600,000 worth of projects that we looked at?
Well, the proposed project manager actually went through all of the ones that we listed as number one priorities and came up to about $19 million. If we were to take
19 million?
19 million. So when we look at the high school and at the middle school, if you don't mind me saying, there's a lot of work. If we were just to be able to do the roofing, to be able to replace all of the windows. So there is quite an extensive amount of work. So within that 20-year project, I believe I added it up and have the director of finance here because I may be off. I think it was about $60 million. And at that point, we just called RIDE and said, based on if we were to do all of these renovations versus to build a new school, what would be the difference? So I think at this point, certainly as the high school and the district is moving forward with career and technical education, providing more opportunities, making sure that students all feel a sense of belonging, moving students from the outer parts of the schools into the mainstream will significantly improve the environment in the high school.
Now, when we're talking about a project manager here, is this a project manager for the whole 20-year projects, or is this just for this year's project?
This is only for the stage one, stage two. We chose Colliers in addition because of its expertise and relationship with RIDE, that we thought we could do the emergency projects and that they could help us with these fast-track projects for this contract that you have a copy of for $215,000, which came down about $30,000 from the original proposal and added in the two emergency projects. That project management for just those would be $215,000. We are not obligated to stage 3 or stage 4. This would only be stage 1, 2, and emergency.
So the firm is only doing the first 5 years?
They're doing a 10-year plan because that's required for RIDE. So whichever firm we went with, that would, ours sunsets in a year, so that they would be doing that based on our documentation.
I was listening to the video again, and to quote Director Devine, as far as the funds, this is based on the available capital, is what she stated. There isn't any bonded projects. Not sure if it will be available in the second half, so. And then I think you were sort of questioning how much was in there right now as far as 600, the capital given by the finance committee and whatnot. 600 or 700,000, do you have a more exact number? So it's $100,000 difference.
Do you? 645, right? $645,000 is in the capital fund project.
Thank you.
But these are in the capital fund, but there's been no application to the town council to appropriate monies from that fund for any projects, any of these projects. So we're going to approve a project manager for projects that haven't been approved by the town council?
Go ahead.
So if I may, Melissa Devine, Finance Director. So I was new here, and so I know that last year we put together the capital plan. And in that capital plan, there was a listing. So and I apologize if I don't know the process here, But as I understood it, is that capital plan goes forward, it gets voted on, and then from there, we can't go forward and ask for approval from the town council to do the projects until we know if RIDE's going to reimburse us. If we do that and ask for your approval, then we would not get reimbursed from RIDE. So we would really need to do a necessity school construction and get approval from RIDE. I think what I'm hearing you say is that we have to put an application forward to get approval to use it. I know last year that the council awarded an amount of money to add to what was existing. I think it was $300 or $400, and we had a couple of $100,000. So it was my first year last year here in this district. So from there, we were just wrapping up with the Boyle project. We have no more RIDE projects on hand, so it wouldn't make sense, because then we would forfeit getting any reimbursement on these school projects. It would behoove of us to want to put together a 10-year plan so that RIDE can do it in increments of 5 to get approval. So as we have funds available over the next 5 years, we could start to ask and request the funds, and whether the school has reserves or the town has given capital funds, we could request those projects as we move along. But the first steps are required by RIDE, and it takes, even if all was said and done, we could not put aside the emergency projects, we could not start these projects if RIDE approves everything until the summer of '26. So these projects we're speaking about would not even be able to be started, because the way it works is stage 1 gets approved, that's your letter of intent, along with some other, and I took some little notes on here about your confirmations and commitments, and you're establishing your building committee, conducting your facilities master plan, and that's February 15th of 2025. From there, a stage 2 is due in the fall, in September. And that stage 2 is much more complex. I've been through a couple of them in my last district, and the stage 2 is develop and agree on the solution to the capital improvement needs at an LEA. You have to have a preliminary approval from RIDE on stage 1. It's to summarize and clearly justify why the projects are necessary. It's a more in-depth architectural feasibility study with a list of inclusive information, schematic design, construction project cost, financing plan, governing body support, project timeline, commissioning, evaluation of MEP. So it's much more intense. So when that happens, that's submitted in September, and then they don't approve it. If they approve it in December. And then by the time you get that approval, it is then going to be work that you would need to do by the time you go out to bid, get everybody on board, then you bid, and then you have the lead times, and then the work can start in the summer, school's in session. So it's really a long lead time. Does that make sense?
Well, what do you actually need to get RIDE approval? Do you need to have a project manager before you can get RIDE approval?
So RIDE's requirement in the necessity school construction is any project that's at least $2 million. So we are required by RIDE to have an OPM on board. So in order to write a stage 1 and 2, we don't have the expertise to write the stage 1 and 2. It involves in getting an architect on board. That we do need to have an OPM to do that.
So by the time, and that's going to cost $215,000. So how much money are you into this project, these projects, even before you come to the council to ask for the money for the project itself? You've already put out a substantial amount of money.
Understood, but this is part of the step. It's RIDE requirement. I mean, if we have some professional people that can write a stage 1 and 2, I'm happy to hear, but it is the process. It is required by RIDE. To do the stage 1 and 2, it takes a lot of time and a lot of hours. I don't have that expertise. You need to have, an engineering background. It requires a lot to do these stage 1 and 2, and it goes back and forth. It's a huge process.
Is any of that reimbursable?
Yes, so that is one of the things that I know that people didn't realize last time, that if we are in fact get approved by RIDE, we could submit to have the OPM stage 1 and 2 as part of the reimbursable package, but we have to ask for that.
Well, it's not, it's only 35% reimbursable? So where's the money gonna come from, like, right now to pay for the OPM?
So the OPM is expected to be paid from school fund balance.
From the school fund balance? And what's the approximate balance? I saw some school committee meetings where it was, I know it's been going down, but,
So we haven't finished the audit yet. We had one, I know 2 million moved over. We had 1.3. The audit's not finalized yet.
right.
So we had 1.3. We have some reserves for special education transportation, and we have revisited them this summer. So we're over $1 million.
Okay. But again, so this project manager, this OPM, is for projects, the emergency projects or fast-track projects only, or are they for
So-
further down the future projects?
Nope, so the OPM is for the stage 1 and stage 2 submission, and to write for the district to submit 2 emergency repairs in a fast track. Because we want to take advantage of doing, RIDE gives each district 1 opportunity per year to do an emergency project up to $500,000. So we want to submit that application in June, and then see if we could submit a second one to hopefully get through those 2 projects that are priority for the schools. That would be the special, ISE special education and the CTE, because RIDE has just approved the high school for the CTE Culinary Arts Program, and it's important for us to, in order to move forward with that and keep that CTE status, is to fix some of the flooring in that classroom.
Right, but this OPM could be used for beyond that, right? It's not just those 2 projects.
It's not a project, it's a stage 1 and 2, and then in writing those applications. This is not a stage 3. Stage 3 is actual construction.
Right.
So stage 1 is the intent, stage 2 is the schematic designs and submittals and feasibility studies. Stage 3 is construction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what I'm getting at is, for example, we don't want to pay $215,000 for an OPM on a project that only costs, $600,000.
But they're going to be doing a 10-year master plan, and
Right,
that's going to
okay.
allow us, right, they're going to be doing a 10-year master plan that we're going to get a 5-year award. So whatever projects, so RIDE gives you an approval to do projects in 5 years. And in this school, construction was not, it was done in, I think, 2018, where districts used to just submit projects, but what was happening is people didn't have funding for it. So what they did is they came out with these regs, and the regs allow a more thorough process to have more stakeholders involved in the actual process on how they come up with it, so that they know that people are, because they're securing funding for us in the reimbursements and things like that, they want to be sure that we're serious. So they give you 5 years. You may do maybe 80% of them, 90% of them, but they want to see your 5-year projects come into fruition. So that way you're not just saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then do nothing.
Right.
Can I interject? Just a couple questions, Director. So the 10-year master plan, that's also due by February 15th, or when is that due?
So February 15th is the small, I call it the smaller package. It's the intent, so they'll have a list, and there's a checklist. So RIDE has this package here that I'm holding. I'll be happy to send off. It's a public document. I'll be happy to share it. I'll send it to the chief. And what it is it gives you a checklist of all the things that are required to do. So stage 1 is your intent stage, and,
Yep.
and it's probably like a binder of stuff that has to go into it. Stage 2 is it could be 2 binders, and it's the feasibility study, actual, architectural, the cost projections, the budgets, and things like that.
So,
So that's due, so February 15th is more the intent. It's
Right.
an easier lift.
yeah, I understand that. When's the master plan due by?
The stage 2 is due September 15th.
So that's when the 10-year master plan has to be submitted by?
That is in stage 2, correct.
Okay. I think in general, I just want to comment on, I think I would like more information. I got to be honest, it's very vague. I noticed that, is typically the case with these requests, and, I don't know if anyone else is familiar with RIDE process or whatever. Of course, we can research it, but I would prefer to, you guys to be a little more detailed as far as, why you're doing certain things, why certain dates are, the way they are, just more information so we can make better decisions. That's what I would like.
Understood?
It just takes a lot of extra time to research. I have no problem doing that, but, we don't have to waste a million years asking you 1,000
Understood.
questions.
Understood.
So, who was on the negotiation team for the school, for the initial OPM?
For this document that was done?
This contract.
No, for the,
the
to select, yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, no, for Collier, what we approved last time, who was negotiating?
So myself, Director of Finance, Director of Facilities, Interim Town Manager, and the town's Finance Director. So in terms of then the second, after the council meeting and the school committee meeting, then Attorney Ben Scungio and I negotiated with Collier's.
How did those go? Were they successful on the school department side, or?
Well, I'm going to paraphrase Ben Scungio. Typically, Collier's does not change their contract, significant changes, including a price reduction, language that is much more favorable to the school district, increase in insurance up to, instead of 1 million being 2 million. So I do have the red line document of changes. So successful, yes.
Okay, could we see that by any chance, or
Sure.
if possible? And I just want to make one other comment. I know Mr. Hodgkins is not here, but he did discuss, we might want to look into the minutes of 2020 and 21, when Collier was doing the projects. It's interesting because with that change order that happened, 2.3 million, the council at that time, they tabled that twice. And, not to quote exactly, but I remember that then Councilman DeCoin, he also, was saying, the council's being put in a bad spot kind of thing. And, there were questions as far as negotiations and should Collier be doing that? I'm not suggesting that they've done anything wrong. This is just the minutes that I read. So that sort of makes me a little, it's a bit of concern. They eventually approved it after the third try, but that's definitely a concern with the company, so.
Councilwoman Toppy, I was also not here during that last
Oh, I
one. So
understand. Yeah.
fully admit that. So we did look into it, and certainly the chairman was. But I do want to point out, because we looked at that and also interviewed other companies, and what we did see is that the original team that had worked on the elementary project is not the team that we are working with
Oh,
at
it's not the same.
Colliers. In fact, many of the different members look to have been moved within the circle of OPMs. In addition, it was a stage 3, stage 4, I believe, where that came up.
That's
We're
right.
only asking for stage 1, stage 2.
That's right. Yep.
We can and probably should go out to bid again for stage 3 and 4. So we're certainly open to doing that. We had great firms come before us. There's no question about that. Certainly what seemed to turn, it was not only their presentation, again, and during the second round with members of the town and the school department there, but also their track record in being able to get a complex project off the ground. So we are doing, as Melissa mentioned, the stage 1, again, most anyone can do that. The stage 2 is very comprehensive, but simultaneously going into an emergency. In fact, we're being very aggressive in asking for 2 different emergency projects to be done. And also their relationships with who we consider to be principals at RIDE. So having those reimbursables, having those communications, and being able to have the team in place is significant. The proposed OPM also resides in Smithfield. So to me, that is a little bit higher bar, because as someone who owns a house here, this is what your project, is going to be. To me, that also was important.
I think that definitely helps. Did you guys, the negotiation team, happen to ask them how many projects they're currently overseeing?
We did, and what the bandwidth was. So with all of the teams, in fact, that was a concern.
Yeah.
So there is a dedicated team, including being proposed led by an OPM who lives in town, that we would not be shared with another project.
Okay, I appreciate all the information. I'll leave you with this. I just don't like I understand that everything, takes time to do, but I don't like this constant last minute, we have to make a decision, we're under the gun kind of thing, especially without all the, details that I would prefer. That's all I'll say, but thank you for answering my questions, all of you. Thank you.
Okay. If I could, Rich Gianatelli, 99 Dean Avenue. I was there for what happened in 2000. I was on the building committee, but I'll come back to that. First, from your line of questionings, I want you to separate a couple things. The stage 1 and stage 2 is a 10,000-foot picture of projects that need to be done in Smithfield. Now, we've been doing a 20-year plan on our capital committee, and it's, quite honestly, a number of the numbers are picked out of the air. What do we think, a roof will cost, or whatever it is. We've done a 20-year plan. That, from the Department of Education, is like, oh, nice job, means nothing. It's done, nothing. You've got to have it done by an OPM, okay? Engineer, project manager, whatever you want to call it, it's got to be done by somebody in those fields. That's number one. So the 10,000-foot picture is a 10-year plan of the jobs that need to be done in Smithfield on the schools. Backtrack a year now, in the budget process, the town council and the finance committee approved a certain amount of money to actually do capital projects. And now we're no longer on that 10-year plan and that 10,000. We are on some actual things that are going to hit the ground, okay? And then there was a little bit of money also that had been given in prior years. It was just sitting there, right? And because there was no 10-year plan, had we spent any of that money, I think it was like $125,000, don't quote me on that, and we can look it up. Had we spent any of that money, it would have been $125,000. We would have lost any reimbursement from extra reimbursement, the so-called housing funds that are 35% minimum right now. They can be a little higher in certain areas, but use 35% and you're not going to kid yourself, okay? So we didn't waste that money. Now we have more money, and the state needs to have a substantial amount of money to see that we're doing something. $125,000 to them is almost like, that's not worth anybody's time. So now we have this extra money. We have clearly identified projects, which we told the council and the Finance Review Commission what they were. Money's been granted. Now we have to go to this phase. And this is, I think Director Devine probably showed you. She gave me a copy of the book. It's thick. It's Rhode Island ride regulations and all that. And it is complicated. It comes out of the past where school committees were loose and free. And they were just putting things in. One community put in for this massive middle school, and they kind of came down under heavy pressure. Can't do it. So you know what they did? They cut the middle school in half. 2 schools right next to each other. It met every single rule. Money went out, and they said, that's it, enough is enough. So they put in these rules. Overall, I think they're really good rules, the way they work, but we've got to jump through certain hoops. Money was just granted in May of last year, May, June, whenever our financial thing is over. And then we also have to go through a few processes. So we couldn't have really come much sooner than we are now. They set a February date for things. They set a September date for things. Back to the current projects, we want to get some things so that we can move them up. Now, they use the term emergency. It's not like there's a hole in the roof or anything, but it's emergency in terms of it needs to be done for the educational process that we have going on here, what we're trying to do with both the special ed and with the culinary project. So the emergency in that sector to get them under, to get them rolling. And so that's what we have to do. We have to get the 10-year plan, and so don't think of, okay, the 10-year plan, which is going to have a big price tag to it. We all know it. We all saw that 20-year project, and we know those numbers, all right? But the 10-year plan will get us focused, we get a 5-year window where we can start putting things in, and we already have clearly defined what we want to put them in, what areas we want to spend that money in, okay? And then we will, try to get 2 of them on the emergency status line so that one of them can start this fiscal year, ending June 30th. The other one we can straddle the year and get the other one to start July 1st and that. One of the projects is the room at the high school for the culinary arts. State requirement, in order to come up with that as a fully certified thing, we have to have a drain in that floor. Drain in that floor means entire asbestos floor removed. Floor has to be built slanted so that it can drain. New floor put down. That can't be done on Christmas vacation or April vacation or whatever. It's got to be done in the summer. It's a big project. So that's the hope there. If we don't do it then, we got to wait a whole year. That messes up with that. And again, that's their February and their September dates of when we put things in. All right. Now, going back to a few years ago, I'll address what happened there. I was on the building committee, and Councilman Takoyan at the time, he had gotten elected in the middle. He came on to the committee. There'd been, the prior councilman was there. He came on, and he probably felt like, yeah, hey, we're being put in bad positions. But when he started to look at the actual way we did all these things, he was like singing praises. And you're saying the way that we put those things together was we put bids together with a whole bunch of adults, because we were scared when we went out to those bids. We didn't know, just knowing what the market was like, we thought there might be problems. We hit a sweet spot. It was between when a bunch of projects were being done in North Providence, Barrington, Pawtucket, and a couple other towns, and before the gate was going to open up for a bunch of other projects. So we had a few of the contractors that were really looking to do some work, and nobody can take credit. It was a sweet spot. That was it. We were right place, right time, and it worked out. But when we put it together, we said, okay, what's the base we need to get done? And then we added all these adults in case. Well, when the bids came in, we could take all the adults. In fact, we're sitting there saying, we were all scared. We're sitting there, we probably could have put a few more adults in there. And that's where a couple of the change orders came in, because now we had extra money to spend. And of course, change orders, and Mr. Hudson was right, that's not the most efficient way to do business. The most efficient way to do business is have a bid, follow that bid, and as few change orders as possible. But we had this extra money, and what happened there was, and he's right about, the fact that there were some things that I think the screws should have been a little tighter on. But when it all came down to it, what it was, as I recall, 2 different things that happened. One was some of the contract language was not being followed, and yes, an OPM should have hopped on that, okay? For things like when you do the new bids, carpenters, masons, electricians, all the various trades, there's a rate per hour, and that rate per hour was not necessarily being followed. The other one was a subcontractor comes in, gives you a bid, and of course they have their overhead, profit and overhead figured into that, and now the general figures it in and throws it in. Well, that's like a double dip. Now, what happened was, and the reason it took a couple of meetings is the council got an attorney, a specialized attorney, to look at these things. Somebody who knew building and that nature. And I asked twice at 2 meetings, once at a general meeting of the building committee and once at a subcommittee. I said, okay, what's come of this? How much have we gotten back? No answer. And so, you kind of got to wait. We got to finish this all out. Finally, I got an unofficial answer, which was, I don't know if it was in the hallway or as a meeting was broken up, and it said, I wish I could remember, it was like $50,000 or $60,000 back to us. Attorney cost about $5,000. I have in my head somewhere so we netted 50. The reason I wanted to know as a building committee members, I want to know, okay, that's 50,000 I can now spend on another thing. It happened to be that about $26,000 was the cost to rip up asbestos floors in our schools, and so we could do 2 rooms, and so that's why I was looking for it, but we never got an official thing. You figure $50,000 on a $45 million project. Sure, we want every penny as tight as we can, but we're not exactly talking about, a lot of waste there, okay? So that's how you have to really look at this thing. We can't stop the projects, the dates that the state gives us. They do that. The school department has been preoccupied with the Boyle project for the last few years. They had to go through the same procedures for that. And that's the last time we actually had an official project that got state approval on that, so. But hopefully it clarifies a little for you. Maybe it draws up more questions, I don't know. But that's how the process works. You got to think of it separately. This particular outfit, while they'll do the 10-year plan, the 10,000-foot area, they won't be doing necessarily the phase 3 and 4. That gets rebid. We rebid it last time. And then that's where those questions would be very apt at that point, in my judgment.
Thank you. Any other questions
Thank
for
you.
Richard? Sure. Richard?
Well, actually, the superintendent or finance director, just for clarification for the council, our obligation to do another 10-year phase 1, phase 2 will be at the conclusion of this 10 years, correct? Like,
It would be a 10-year master plan, and they approve 5 years at a time. So we would you could only do a stage 1 and 2 for 5 years. So we would submit up to 10 years. So right now, Smithfield has a 10-year that's going to expire at the end of 2026. So when you did a 10-year plan last time, whenever that was, probably when you were getting ready to do the elementary schools, there was a 10-year plan done, that will expire. So the last one that you did, you probably had the athletic field, you did a stage 1 and 2, and then piggybacked off the projects that were in there. So now you need a new one because you'll expire. And so you'll have a master plan for the next 10 years. You'll do the first 5 years, so they'll give you an approval next. If this goes through, you'll get an approval by next December, a year from now. And that will be good for 5 years' worth of projects.
Mike, what I'm concerned about, are we going to have to bring an OPM back in at 5 years?
Well, you'll need an OPM to do the construction in stage 3 and 4.
Correct.
And in 5 years, you'll need help with doing a stage. So it may be a little bit easier to do a stage 1 and 2 because you'll be putting together the projects and you'll have a lot of the documents. But you do need help because stage 2 requires an engineer and architect design. It requires MEP and commissioning, so you do need an architect. So it does require for you to have those professionals.
So we may be paying the same amount 5 years from now to do the second half.
It may not be as intense.
Okay, so there is another expense within that 10 years, basically.
It could be, yeah, if you're doing those stage 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And again, this is stage 1 and 2, 10-year master plan, and 2 emergency projects.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just had one other question of the negotiation committee. Did you guys happen to look at the past projects of Collier's, the results of that, if it was, I hate this on time, on budget stuff, but did you guys look into that? I mean, I looked into it, for instance, 2019, Lincoln High School, $2 million over budget, $1 million in change orders, people not happy. But I did see some good things too, but I'm just wondering if that was a consideration. I'm sure it was.
Thanks for asking that question.
Yeah.
And a very good question. Absolutely. Not only do we check references in the projects, Larry is a great colleague of mine, so I actually went to the library that was done. In fact, my whole team went over there and to ask, what, if any, issues, what were the issues that were here, as well as in the other projects, because I think that's a very fair question going forward. Based on certainly the questions and comments last time, we're as invested in making sure this process is as smooth as possible. As I said, I think our negotiations was successful. I think we can really move forward with stage 1, stage 2 with Colliers. If we don't go with Colliers, the worst case scenario is it just moves this back 1 year. And those are ride schedules. And it would be the same type of companies. We would like to be more aggressive with the high school and to do some renovation work. The bandwidth, because we were also concerned, can you do stage 2, which is comprehensive, and also pivot to do these emergency projects, without promises. So we felt confident. More importantly, the attorney felt confident, and the references were good and candid where they might have fallen down on some other areas as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bartz.
Welcome.
Who drafted up the contract? Because we're being asked to approve this contract, correct?
This contract was drafted with the attorneys for Colliers and our attorney.
Mr. Scungio?
Yes, Mr. Scungio.
Did you see any issues with the contract?
I just have a couple of questions, comments. I have to agree with Councilwoman Toppy about when you guys send stuff over to us, we need proper documentation. I don't want us to sit up here and chase our tail if we don't have proper documentation. That's number one. Number two, I believe the chief has requested 4 meetings a year with the school committee and the town council. What you had discussed with us tonight is a lot of stuff for the new people is new. And if we're all in the same room together discussing things like this, we wouldn't have to spend 45 minutes on this project because we would all know. And if we had the proper documentation, we would all know. So I'm just asking if you could get back to the chief as soon as possible to schedule the 4 meetings and to make sure the next time you have a proposal to come in front of us, that we have the proper documentation. It's not hard.
Could I just ask for clarification? First, believe I have been in communication with the chief. We have a new members of the school committee. They just had their second meeting. New members of the town council. I think we agreed after the second, based on occurrences, that we would have those scheduled. So we're not putting those off. In fact, we're really looking
No,
forward to
I
those.
just wanted to bring it up because
I just didn't want you to think
I would
that
like
we
to
were
have it
holding
done
back. The second
it's
thing is,
never been done before.
I think and so does the school committee, if I could speak for them, thinks it's a great idea. So I think as we forge our relationship further and involved in more projects, everyone is for that. Certainly I am as well. In terms of the documentation, just for clarification, because I want to make sure the chief has everything, could you just, is there a list of other documentation? We did send the scope of work, the contract process. I did write up some additional notes. What else would be helpful to make your decision of the RIDE document?
Yes.
Okay. Certainly.
So I don't know if any of you are aware, but Mario Carreño from RIDE is always willing to come and make a presentation about school construction. That's an option. I'm happy. I learned a lot from Mario. I've been working with him for years, and he's great. So maybe after you read through the RIDE document, I'll be happy to send it tomorrow. Have him come out and explain the process. He's really good at it, and he's really here to help everyone understand on what options are. He also works with you to help on, hey, this is good and that's good, and how to take advantage of the opportunities that they have down at RIDE. So I think Mario would be a good resource for us, but I'm happy to send that over, and hopefully maybe you both want to, all of you will want us, both of us, schedule a meeting. He did come and speak at another point about some RIDE reporting, but he has done it in other districts, in my previous district and city council. He did go and speak and explain the school construction. So I think that might be helpful, but I'll send this over and then let you decide. And I'm happy to reach out for you.
So Melissa, that'll be our first meeting.
Okay? Sounds like
So
a plan.
whenever we get a date, you can call Mario to come on in,
And that's a meeting with,
the council and the school committee.
oh, great, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Consider discussing that for approval in terms of contract with college project reviews and proposed project rules for capital projects at the Smithfield Public Schools on behalf of the schools involved.
Do I have a second?
You gonna say it? Second.
Any more discussion?
Sorry, I did have one other question, I forgot. Who are you guys planning on designating for the owner's representative, and why is that blank?
I was going to speak to the school committee chair about that.
okay.
So it would,
It's from the school department?
yeah, it would be, yes,
all right.
one of us, yes.
Oh, one of you guys. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
What's that?
Yeah, thank you.
No further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C, consider discussion and act upon entering, authorizing the interim town manager to enter into contract with Sullivan and McLaughlin for the installation and additional lighting at the Boyle Field Complex in the amount of $29,649.00 to be paid with the ARPA funds. Chief?
Mr. President, council members, Angelo Mancucci, the Director of Grounds and Buildings for the school department, had a family event, couldn't make it tonight, and he apologized for not being here, but I'll discuss this, it's pretty straightforward. So there was already some ARPA funds obligated to parks, and now that Gene works closely with Angelo, our DPW, does the park work on the school grounds as well as around town. There's definitely a lighting issue. It came up at the Boyle Committee meeting, and I personally went over at night to look at the lighting issue over there. It's a major safety issue. The bleachers aren't properly lit. I don't think this was a fault of anybody. It's just the lighting on the project doesn't really light the background where people are moving around to a concession stand, the bleachers, et cetera. So from a safety standpoint, I think a liability standpoint, with the money for the fields, there was enough in there to actually do this out of the already appropriation because DPW is working on different things on the field. So we felt it was proper to bring this in front of the council, utilize the money in this area because it is a very significant safety issue, and we don't want to see anybody get hurt. And the Boyle Committee approved this request.
Chief, I wish the school committee people stayed around, but has anyone talked to Angelo about those lights over there?
So Angelo has a family emergency going on right now, and him and I are going to be speaking tomorrow. I've already contacted, we've had a conversation.
Thank you. For the council's edification, the lights are on all the banks for hours upon hours upon hours, instead of the two end lights on each bank is supposed to be used for the walkers, but it hasn't been. It's the total place is lit up for hours upon hours. So I asked the chief to talk to Angelo about putting it back to where it belongs to keep the cost down. But thank you for that edification, chief. I have a motion on that?
May I ask a question? Okay,
Sure.
I'll wait till discussion.
You have a motion?
I guess I'll ask it now. So this wasn't identified initially. This major safety issue was not identified initially.
I wasn't involved with the committee, and the DPW director may be able to add to that because he was on the committee initially, but I'm assuming that the lighting was more concentrated on the field and a general entrance going in, less concentration and on the bleacher areas. Plus, I don't know how much funding was allotted, so.
Is that the project manager for Boyle that would have been responsible for catching that?
It would have been an architectural thing, I would think. But let
Architectural
Gene
thing.
can explain it.
Gene Allen, Public Works Director. Going back when this was originally in development stage, you recall that the lighting came after and not part of the original Boyle Field. This is an add-on through some grants and available funds through National Grid or Rhode Island Energy right now for rebates and things like that. So that was looking at the tall lights, but the lights in behind the bleachers and the other areas was not considered earlier on.
Why is that an afterthought if it's a major safety problem? I don't know if you know that, the answer
I
to
don't know
that.
the
That's
answer.
kind of
I
odd,
don't know
but
the
okay.
answer to that.
Thank you.
Councilman
So
Winfield?
these are ARPA funds, they have to be allocated by the end of the year.
Yes, yeah. And these are funds that, due to credit to Gene and DPW's due diligence, we've got the money to do it. So they've done a very good job with spreading that money out.
Okay, consider
Authorizing the interim town manager to enter into contract with Sullivan and McLaughlin for the installation of additional lighting for the Boyle Field complex in the amount of $29,645.00.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Consider discussion and act upon authorizing a resolution submission of a proposal program year 2023 Community Development Block Grant application. Mr. Phillips.
Good evening, councilors. Welcome. You have before you a brief memo on our CDBG rolling application for this year. We've got two projects we're looking at. One is the acquisition funds for the William Windsor School adaptive reuse, and the other is the Smithfield Housing Rehabilitation Program, which we're looking to reinstitute after a number of years of not having that program funded. I do want to mention that there was a typo in the memo and resolution regarding the Windsor School. It should have been 660, not 650, bringing the total to 735 for the total ask on CDBG. I believe I passed around an amended, corrected memo and resolution. I think everyone's familiar with the Windsor School. Gemini Housing is looking at developing elderly housing there, affordable elderly housing, up to 42 units. And they're looking to help, through the CDBG program for acquisition funds. Be happy to ask or answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Mr. Phillips?
Yes, I have a question. Who oversees the rehab program?
It would be out of my office.
So you're still the planner?
Yes, yep. The state is looking at having the state do a lot of the administrative stuff, the developing of the specs and doing some of the inspection work. And they've got some of the entitlement communities have hired a company to do that, and they hope to expand that program to smaller communities like Smithfield. So hopefully, if they do fund this, there's a hope that they will take over a lot of those administrative functions off the department. So, but in the meantime, if they do fund us, we'll find a way to get it done. We've done it before, so.
So you've identified areas that need this already, or no?
That need rehab?
Rehab, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of applications. We have a long waiting list, similar to the Gemini Housing, for, people who want to do projects. We used to do very small projects to like $5,000 projects, but you can't do much for $5,000 anymore. So we're gonna, the program's gonna be looking at, projects around $20,000, 15 to 20, so.
My last question is there a committee associated with this, or is it just at the planner's office?
Yeah, it's just out of my office.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
This says program year 2023.
Yeah, the program years don't necessarily follow the calendar year, so it's off a year.
It's the state, Mike.
I thought this was the federal government. Maybe they're just.
Entertain a motion.
Consider authorizing a resolution for the submission of proposed program year 2023 Community Development Block Grant application.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
E, consider discussion act upon authorizing a change order request for number 6 from E.W. Berman, General Contractors of Warwick, the design build services for the sprinkler system, installation of the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center in the amount of $129,282.00 will be paid for by the ARPA funds. Chief?
Good evening, Gene Allen, Director of
Director,
Public
Chief.
Works. I'm not
Chief Director?
No, go with Director, not Chief.
Okay.
As part of the project, there was questions about the air conditioning for the neighborhood center, and this was kind of left kind of in between the first contractor and the second contractor. It was never really put in any of the specifications. We had estimated the work could come in as much as $250,000 for this. And in working with Berman, they brought in their subcontractor, and they're proposing to do it for what is a very fair price of $129,282,000. And this will complete what we need to do in the facility. And we have available ARPA funds to fund this.
Any questions?
How much does the DPW department have left in their share of the ARPA funds?
Well, you don't have any, everything's obligated. as far
Everything
as
is,
left
the
over.
DPW side is,
What?
everything in
Oh.
the DPW side is.
No, I mean, because there's a bunch of stuff for DPW tonight, so
Yeah.
does that include everything that you're?
So
Yes.
this opera fund here is the money we got from the pandemic recovery out of the,
Right.
this one's out of the 2.4 million, right?
Yes, and this was sitting in the park department, and when we took over the park department, we realized that this money was available, so we started looking, and we didn't want to lose the item, so we're utilizing it, and that's why I'm before you this evening to utilize all those funds.
I think I probably said it wrong. I meant, is it everything accounted for, or whatever the term someone just used? Obligated, thank you.
After this meeting, everything
Okay.
will be obligated.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any more discussion? I have a motion.
Consider authorizing the change order request number 6 from DPW Berman General Contractors of New York, design build services for the sprinkler system, installation of the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center in the amount of $129,282 paid for capital funds.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor? Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. F, consider discuss upon authorizing a change order request number 9 from E.W. Berman, General Contractors of Warwick, Rhode Island, to purchase installation of 2 new boilers at the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center in the amount of $14,516 to be spent with the ARPA funds.
So originally in Phase 1, it was the town's responsibility to purchase a boiler for Phase 1 of the project, and then there were 2 boilers that were proposed in Phase 2, which is what Berman is currently doing. We went out to advertise, and we collected prices from probably half a dozen or more vendors to install the individual boiler that we were responsible for. Those prices came in between $18,900 and $49,000 in that range. We spoke to Berman, and what Berman is proposing is to upsize their obligation of installing 2 boilers to handle where that 3rd boiler would also handle at a lesser cost. And plus, it would also mean less maintenance because you're only dealing with 2 boilers. You have 1 contractor who's installing them. So it just makes sense, and it saves money to have them upsize the 2 boilers they're responsible for and do that installation and be responsible for the warranty and maintenance.
Gas boilers, Director?
Yes.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Consider authorizing the change order request number 9 from E.W. Berman General Contractors of New York, Rhode Island for the purchase and installation of 2 new boilers at the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center in the amount of $14,516.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. G, consider, discuss, or act upon authorizing the interim town manager to enter into a contract through the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement number 381 with Narragansett Improvement Company of Providence, Rhode Island for the parking lot installation services of the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center in the amount of $124,382.50 paid by the ARPA funds.
So again, at the neighborhood center, there hasn't really been any civil work done on the outside as far as design. And if you recall, one of the problems that started with the reason that we have a problem with the neighborhood center is the parking lot is almost a foot higher than what was the wooden sill. So there was a lot of water, and it was basically under the level of the pavement around it. So the pavement was draining towards the building, which was creating a lot of the rot. So what has to be done is we have to remove probably a good foot of material, the existing pavement, and a lot of material that's in there, re-pitch and re-slope, and then reinstall the binder in the top, which is what this contract will cover. The DPW will go in there ahead of time and we'll install some galleys and a little bit of drainage to try and collect what drainage we do need for that area. And we'll put an outlet pipe if for whatever reason we don't have good percolation into the ground, that we can pursue extending that to the drainage discharge later on.
Timeframe?
We'll have probably have the galleys in if weather permits by the end of probably January. If not, then it'll be early in the spring, and then we'll get this paving done first thing in the spring. But we want to make sure our work is not going to hold them up.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none?
Consider authorizing intertown manager to enter into contract with the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement with Narragansett Improvement Company of Providence for parking lot installation services for the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center in the amount of $124,382.50.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. H, consider this act discussed upon authorizing interim town manager to enter into a contract with T. Maiosi LLC of North Kingston, Rhode Island, for the parking lot improvements at the Willow Field parking lot in the amount of $26,405, paid for by the ARPA funds.
This will be over at Willow Field. As you know, we're building some courts over there. I don't want to say the name of the courts, but it's where we're building the pickleball courts. This is the parking lot on the side that will service both the pickleball courts and the baseball field. This is our current contractor. We're in the last year of a 3-year contract with T. Maiosi to do our road paving. We had him go down there and take a look to see if he could do this parking lot with our existing pricing and contractual obligations that we use for roads. Generally, areas like this is a little more expensive per ton because there's a lot more handwork. This is a relatively open area, and he's willing to come in and do it for our existing prices, which, other than the escalation for the asphalt, are 2.5 years old at this point. So again, we would look to get this done in the springtime as soon as the weather breaks also, but it would be underneath our existing contract.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? I have a motion.
Move that the town council authorize the interim town manager to enter into contract with T. Maiosi LLC of 80 Compass Circle, North Kingstown, Rhode Island, for parking lot improvement services for the Willow Field parking lot through our existing street pavement contract pricing as described in the attached quote for the total cost of $26,405.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor? Aye. Nays, ayes have it. I, consider discussion upon authorizing a bid award of the purchase of the infield mix for the town's baseball and softball fields to be paid for by the ARPA funds.
Again, since we've acquired the responsibility for the park department, we've gone around, and Ralph has done a great job going around and assessing all the fields and the conditions with Paul. And what we're trying to do is bring everything up to the standards they should be. We've done a lot with the infields. We've brought back the depth of some of the infields. We've done Whipple 5, and Whipple 5 is done. Whipple 1 is done. We've started on the baseball field at the high school. This would be the infield mix to bring everything up to grade in some areas where several inches low. So we're estimating that, this is per ton, but we're estimating it's probably in the ballpark of $60,000 by the time we're done doing all of the fields. This will do all 12 fields, by the way, baseball and softball.
Great, thank you.
So you went with this company instead of the one that had the secret ingredients that they wouldn't disclose?
Yeah, I had a conversation with the owner of the company to say, if, we looked at their material, it was a little short on clay. It had a little too much sand. We were afraid it's going to blow around and not really be able to compact that well. And they said that they were not able to change the mix. It was just bank run, and they were selling it like that. So this material here that you have in front of you that we're recommending, we've worked with considerably, and we're very happy with it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to authorize the interim town manager to enter into contract with New England Specialty Soils for the supply of native infield mix in the amount of $53 per ton delivered.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. J, consider the act upon authorizing the interim town manager to enter into the contract through the master price agreement number 5650E with EH Turf Supply, Inc., DBA Allen Seed of Exeter, Rhode Island, for the supply of a season-long fertilizer program in the amount of $102,407.75 to be paid by the ARPA funds.
So again, in an attempt to bring all the fields up into good condition and manageable condition with less budget in the future, what we need to do is bring the grass and the playing surfaces back with a little bit of leveling and a good fertilization program. This price that you see here will be for all of the facilities in town, and this will be probably the first of probably a 2 or 3 year, depending on how well we're successful with the first few, but this puts it under a professional program for the fertilization that will be easier for our crews to maintain. They have the licenses to do everything. It makes it safer to make sure everything's being done properly. And, you know, you'll see this number or a number similar to this in the budget for the following year or two, just to make sure that we have a good establishment of the grass.
What was the process before to maintain all these fields? You said this is a more professional process?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak to how it was done before. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh,
I
okay.
just
No
know that when
problem.
we went out and we started assessing the fields, we saw this as a need to bring them up to the playing conditions that, you know, the town expects.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move that the Smithfield Town Council authorize the interim town manager to enter into a contract with EH Turf Supply, Inc., DBA LLC, 693 South County Trail, Exeter, Rhode Island, for the supply of seasonal fertilization program as described in the attached detailed quote for $102,407.75.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. K, consider the discussion and act upon authorizing interim town manager to enter into a contract through the master price agreement number 108 with Palmer Doors, Inc. of Smithfield, Rhode Island, to purchase one new 12-by-12 roll-up garage door for Public Works Department in the amount of $13,348 to be paid for by the ARPA funds.
Thank you. At the DPW, if you're familiar with the facility, we have the main garage in the front has one bay that is tall, or taller than the other bays. The trucks barely fit in the other bays, but this would allow us to do a little bit of lifting for some of the vehicles with some portable lifts that I'll put into the budget for next year to purchase. But right now, the existing is an overhead door that has the rails that prevent you from lifting anything. This would be the roll-up that would stay on the face of the garage bay. And then when you bring a truck in, it will allow room to move up, and we'll at least be able to get hopefully 5 or 6 feet underneath most of the trucks so you can actually work, as opposed to having to be underneath or outsourced to work.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes
you.
have it.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you.
Consider discussion, act upon authorizing the interim town manager to enter into a contract through the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement 108 with Palmer Doors, Inc., and the replacement of the fire station and the fire station number 2 in the amount of $52,983 paid for by the ARPA funds.
Mr. President, I'll explain this. Although the other day I stopped by the fire station and they asked me for ID and gave me a visitor's pass, so I don't know what that meant.
It might be a winner. Might be a winner.
Anyways, so this was earlier on when the finance director showed the movement of money in the ARPA funds. We were able to reduce some of this, another air conditioning project at the station that originally were going to be out of ARPA, that we actually had it repaired much cheaper. And now that gives us enough money to do the doors. The doors are old, you'll notice in the memo. They're not only old, but they're not energy efficient. So this will hopefully help with energy savings as well.
Any questions to the chief? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays, ayes have it.
Is that the end of the opera funds? They're gone. Okay. So we're on our own now?
We're swimming upstream, my friend. Number 12, public comment. Anybody have any questions, concerns? How did I know you were gonna come up? Nice haircut.
I do my own haircuts.
Happy
Been a
haircut.
barber 50 years. Ed DeMille, 75 Whipple Road. I don't know, I know I gotta get a little closer. I don't know if the interim chief knows this, and I'm hoping, like you said, swim upstream with the opera funds. There's a notepad in the planning office for people who need windows put in their house. The notepad's been on that shelf so long, it's got moths flying out of it. I would ask humbly that some opera funds be used. There's about 10 people on that list to have the windows, and instead of keep tabling it, there's money in the opera fund, and that's a good cause. You know, I think I've heard everything tonight sounds good. I don't know where the figures come from. I think they come from the stars, but everything sounds good. But I think the good cause of putting windows in people's houses that need them, and the money, it doesn't have to come from the state, it can come from those opera funds. And I would ask the chief and John and the council to look into that notebook that's there and allocate window people to put those windows in.
We'll take that under advisement, but I believe the block grant money is to be used for that. And we just approved that tonight. You were a little late coming in.
So that situation will be looked at and rectified or
Correct.
go forward. All right, block, but what's the difference between the block and the opera? I'm just curious. The block's got to come from the state?
Yeah. Block grant money's from the state, opposite from the feds.
So it's finally got approved. It was down there for about 2 or 3 years, 4 years. Okay. Well,
Yep, thank you.
thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Gary Tacoyan, 6 Elmhurst Drive, Greenville. Boy, as a frugal Armenian, I'm glad I don't come to too many meetings. We spent some money tonight. But one thing I wanted to say tonight was, there's a company in town, and it's ironic how we talked about the lighting at the high school. I got a phone call from Angelo in the beginning of September, and he needed a diesel-powered light tower for the entrance of where the concession stand is. So I secured one from United Rentals at no charge. It was there for about 2.5 months. We skipped that one over to the parade, the Christmas parade, with another additional 4 towers and a generator to power up the commons there for power. United Rentals is an unbelievable company. Every time I've gone there for Tommy for this parade, I've never gotten no for an answer. Gary, whatever you need. And this year, which usually we fuel these machines up before we bring them back, they said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. So I don't know, maybe we could write a letter, the chief or somebody can write a letter to United Rentals, because they're very good to us since we've had these parades.
Gary, I'll do something better than writing a letter.
Okay.
Well, I'll ask the chief to bring them in for the first meeting in January, to give them a plaque for their help. I think the town needs to do more of that.
Yeah, they're a great,
When organizations donate their time and machinery to the town, we need to do that. We need to acknowledge these people
Yeah, they-
moving forward, just like when we did Whipple Field, we did Local 57. So we'll have the chief bring them in for the first meeting in January.
Again, this company they're not townies, they're not sentinels. They're just good people who are giving. I know they're in the town, I know they're a big company, but they're unbelievable. It's never no, never a squawk, never, oh, you're back again. You know, they're very good.
They're the ones I did the first Friday Night Lights with.
Yeah.
I went to them and they donated all the lights for that first Friday Night Lights game.
The other thing is, I'd like to congratulate Bruce Beaumier for being our new town sergeant. But for you people on the council who don't really know Bruce, many years ago, he started a little group. It's called 10 Santas. And some know about it. Some of you townies know about it. And these 10 Santas go around to different families, some in financial need, some in mental need. None of them know that Thursday night they're coming, the 10 Santas. And this 10 Santas came from a young girl who was a paraplegic, someone had reached out to Bruce many years ago, and she's confined to a wheelchair. She's since passed. And she was in need. She said she hasn't seen Santa in 10 years. And that's how Bruce came up with the 10 Santas. So Thursday night, you're going to see Bruce, and there's another Santa here who's going to be one of the 10 Santas, 2 Santas, that's what 3 Santas are here. And you're going to see the little elves running around, and you're going to see them all over town. And they'll be visiting families in need. And this has been behind the scenes for a long time. And thanks to Bruce and the 10 Santas and the elves and all the other people who donate to this, a lot of, not businesses, personal people who donate to this. I just want to say it's probably one of the best things, the best checks that I write for donations is the 10 Santas, and that's going out there. They don't know they're coming, but you'll see them around town. And Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank you, Gary.
Well,
Any other people?
Well, if I may, while we're here, so we talk about these lights and the generator and, well, how do they get there? Well, Gary does that. And Gary goes and gets them and brings them and puts them out. And how do they get back? Well, Gary does that. And he does have his help. He has his girlfriend come and he puts her to work, so she doesn't get a free ride. But so all these people, it takes a big group to put these things on. So yes, United Rentals, they were always there, but Gary, you're always there too. It does, yes.
I want to,
Can I make a public
you
comment?
don't have to wait until after me.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I want to wish all the Smithfield residents a happy holiday, and please stay safe. We've had too many accidents in Smithfield this year. Another one last night, a fatality, so please be careful. Chief?
While Gene Allen and Ralph Farrer are here, I had asked a few months ago if Gene would oversee the East Smithfield Neighborhood Center project, and I got a very funny look. It was a big responsibility, but he took it on, and I just want to recognize the work they've done, and you can see what he did with the monies. We're getting a lot more done. We were able to spread the ARPA funds out, and that's really owed to Gene and his crews for the time they put in. And Gene's been very diligent working with Carlos Santos, our purchasing agent, to make sure we're spreading that money as best we can. So I have to thank him very much for
Thank you, Director.
helping out.
Thank you very much.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.